Bob Wankel Friday, and he is with us right now to break it all down. Phillies make 2 trades, 3 players in all. Are they good enough? Probably not. Bob Wankel is here. He seems to agree with me off the bat there that, all right, let's break them down, my man. It's got Spencer Howard out, Kyle Gibson, and Kennedy in. On the surface, you're better today, pitching-wise, than you were 10 minutes ago, right? 40 minutes ago.
It's a beautiful Friday afternoon in the middle of the summer. People are feeling good, and so I don't want to rain all over anybody's parade here. So let's just start off with something positive, Mike, because I'm a positive kind of guy. Phillies are better today than they were at the completion of their game against the Washington Nationals yesterday. There's no arguing that. Are they good enough to win this division? No. I mean, I just really don't know how else to say it. I mean, these moves are they're okay, but you know the Braves got better today, the Mets got better today, and I just don't think that what they did was nearly enough.
Yeah, the Braves, by the way, just got Richard Rodriguez, so they got a closer. Phillies got a closer. Gibson's in there. What's the starting rotation look like for Philadelphia moving forward?
Well, right now, you obviously have Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola at the top, and then it gets a little bit murky. Kyle Gibson slots in, and Kyle Gibson's had a really nice year this season. But there are a couple things that kind of give you pause. Number one, he's having a career year. He's just really never been this good before. And number two, in 2 starts following the All-Star break, he has given up 11 earned runs in 10 innings combined over 2 starts. He's put on 26 base runners in 2 starts since the All-Star break. So, the Phillies went out and scouted him his last 2 times out and said, like, that's our guy. And I find that to be a little bit confusing, to be honest with you. He is coming from a pitcher-friendly ballpark in Texas to certainly a hitter-friendly ballpark at Citizens Bank Park. His defense is not nearly as good here as it was in Texas. There are a lot of concerns about him. That being said, even if he's just league average or slightly below league average, he'll present a significant upgrade over Vince Velasquez and Matt Moore. But to your point and to your question, this is the concern. Right now, with Zach Eflin out of the lineup, Vince Velasquez and Matt Moore are still in this rotation. So I don't know. I thought that the Phillies had to get those guys out of there. And right now, at least one of them, even when Zach Eflin comes back, looks like they'll remain in.
Did they give up on Spencer Howard too soon?
Listen, Spencer Howard has shown some flashes here. Like I tweeted out a little while ago that opponents had a 107 batting average with a 331 OPS against Spencer Howard the first time through the order this season. That doesn't just happen by accident. I mean, you've got to be able to bring something to the table to get batters out early in games like that. That being said, I don't think that the Phillies really gave him a fair shake in the way that he was handled both last season and this season, kind of yanked him back and forth between roles. I just think that lack of stability really impeded his growth. But I think there are real reasons to be concerned about his long-term projectability as a mid-rotation starting pitcher. And so did they give up on him too early? I don't know. I actually kind of thought it was a fair deal in that way.
Any of the other guys anybody should know about?
Just in terms of what they were able to get back or what they gave up?
Both. I mean, I know that one of the pitchers in the deal from Texas is one of their better prospects, but what Philadelphia gave up, I mean, I would imagine not Gowdy is somebody I remember was a high pick, but it's kind of been nothing. Gessner is interesting. Wasn't he an international guy?
Yeah, so, I mean, when you look at Kevin Gowdy, who's a former second-round pick, he's had injury issues. A guy that I don't think that the organization is particularly high on at this point. And then what they're getting back from Texas, listen, he's their number 9 ranked prospect for whatever prospect rankings are worth, especially right now. He's a AA. He's a 22-year-old. There's an expectation that he will probably be a major leaguer at some point, maybe in the next year. You'll probably see him in 2022. So, I mean, listen, probably a fair deal. Like, I don't think that the Phillies got fleeced by any means, but the question really is, right, did they do enough to make a run here with 2 months left?
Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad, covers the Phillies. They also brought back Freddy Galvez. Now, the Phillies and Philadelphia teams in general have a history of loving to bring back old players and bringing them back. Galvez is interesting because he plays short, he can play third, he's also played center, he's also played left. So super utility, is he Scott Kingery?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, listen, it's kind of like a move that you roll your eyes at. You go like, really? Like, are we really doing this? A reunion with Freddy Galvez? This is one of your big deadline moves. But listen, I mean, almost 250 at-bats this season, 720 OPS, 249 batting average. He's popped 9 homers. He's been on the IL for the last month. He's expected back first week of August. So you consider the versatility. He can play a little second, shortstop, third base. He's an upgrade, and you can either use him as a late-inning defensive replacement, or I expect him to probably get some starts here and there. And listen, defensive runs saved is a flawed metric, but if you're going by it, it's something that I know that teams pay attention to. And Didi Gregorius this year, as a point of comparison, had a -9 defensive run save at shortstop. Alec Boehm's had a -12 at third base. Freddy Galvez is -1. He's not an elite defender anymore. He's not going to come in and win a gold glove or anything like that. But he is a significant defensive upgrade on the left side of the infield and can probably spot you out in center, too.
Right. Obviously, he's on the injured list right now. But when he comes back, you kind of mentioned, but do they have to play him at shortstop over Didi the way – I mean, Galvez was a pretty outstanding defensive player in his time here. Now, as he's aged a little bit, I think he's declined a bit, but he's significantly better at shortstop and third base than what you currently have.
That is absolutely true from a defensive standpoint. And honestly, you can make an argument that he's better offensively than both of those players. And really, I kind of look at it and stack him up next to Didi Gregorius. You talk about the defense and that Freddy Galvez is going to be an upgrade, but just look at the numbers this year. I mean, Didi Gregorius is a 645 OPS right now. He's hitting under 210. And, listen, I don't fancy myself to be a baseball scout, but you do know that I have a little bit of a baseball background that goes beyond just covering the game. And I have to tell you, I sat down at Citizens Bank Park for 6 of the 8 games on that last homestand. And Didi Gregorius right now looks like he's swinging a 2x4. Everything looks slow. I mean, his bat speed has just completely evaporated. And I asked Joe Girardi the other night, is he hurt? Is there an injury component to this? Because I just don't see anything with the swing right now. And Joe says no. But, I mean, he just does not look like the same player. And it's not like he's hitting into a lot of hard outs or he's been unlucky. I mean, he just looks completely overmatched right now.
All right, so let me get your opinion then. Does a team with Torreyes and Galvez better than Boehm and Gregorius?
You know what? I think if you use those guys and play matchups, if you have late leads, you're protecting leads in the 6th inning on, I think you can really mix and match and maybe do it that way. You know that Joe Girardi loves to double switch as it is. So I think that there's a way that you can play all of these guys. I think that if you play Ronald Torreyes every single day, you're going to run the risk of overexposing him. And Mike, that certain players, even when they contribute and they bring something to the table for you, and Ronald Torreyes is really giving this team a jolt on a number of occasions. But I think if you run him out there 5 or 6 days a week, he's going to show what he really is, and he's a career utility bench type player.
Right.
So I think that you really want to pick your spots with him.
So Ant Kennedy is the closer. What happens in this bullpen now? I mean, do you, Bob Wankel, think about moving Ranger Suarez into the starting rotation?
Yeah, I think it's something that you at least have to consider in that what we talked about before. I mean, I just don't know how you can go night to night, start to start, and use Matt Moore and Vince Velasquez in this rotation. I think if the answer is getting them out of the rotation, then you have to consider any solution, which includes stretching out Ranger Suarez, stretching out Bailey Falter when he gets back, and giving him a go, which is a tough ask for a young player in the middle of I put this in air quotes, pennant race. But I think that you have to explore all possibilities here. Ian Kennedy, to me, probably should be the closer. I don't think that Ranger Suarez has closer stuff. I think that he has to be too fine. I think that he can be really valuable and a versatile piece for you, but he's not a guy that I want to hand the ball to in the 9th inning every night. It's not something I want to do. So for me, Ian Kennedy has 16 saves this year, striking out a batter over per inning, I should say. So striking out a little over 9 per 9 innings. And he's held opponents to under a 230 batting average this year, and he only has 7 walks in 32 1/3 innings pitched. So he throws strikes. To me, why not? It's what you went out and made the deal for him to do, so let him do it.
All right, tonight it's Real Muto in the leadoff spot. Brad Miller hitting second, so we've already got a little bit of a, wonkiness because of some stuff here. Harper third, so I guess that's good news because he had to come out of the lineup yesterday. He's back in. McCutchen fourth, Bohm, Gregorius, Chirias is at second tonight. Herrera is in center field. Vince Velasquez, he's got to do better than Chris Sanchez did yesterday, I would imagine. But that's...
I would think so. I mean, listen, Vince Velasquez, I will say this, not somebody I trust, not somebody I'd bet on, not somebody I would want to make another 12 starts down the stretch for me. But on any given night, can Vince Velasquez go out and give you a functional start? Sure. And against a very weak Pirates team, you would expect him to be able to go out and give you 4 or 5 innings and maybe allow 2 or 3 runs and give you at least a shot. And if he can't do it tonight, my guess is that his 116th start in a Phillies uniform will probably be his last.
You didn't like my answer the other day.
What did you say? I missed that.
You asked, would you rather Matt Moore his 10th start or Velasquez 116? I said, I will watch Moore get to 116 if I never have to see Velasquez pitch again.
I honestly, I totally disagree. I cannot tell you if I were a fan.
I just never want to see Velasquez start again. I know Moore sucks, but if I have to watch him pitch 106, what would it be? He's thrown 10 starts. He'd have to throw.
He's got another 97 to go. I guess
I'd watch him throw 97 more times if I never have to watch Velasquez again. That's how bad I hate Velasquez right now.
107 more Matt Moore starts for you.
Awful.
Yeah, it's not an ideal scenario. And, with the Mets adding Baez and the Braves remaking their outfield today with a number of moves. And then you just said, as we got on air here, that they dealt for Rodriguez as well from Pittsburgh. Is that right?
Atlanta did.
Yeah, Atlanta did. Yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of him, to be honest with you. He's a one-pitch guy, and he is definitely the poster child for the sticky stuff leaving the game and the spin rates tumbling and all of that. There's a lot of red flags on him. But, hey, whatever. I mean, the Braves are doing things to try to stay in it after losing Ronald Acuna. They're only 4 games out. The Phillies and Mets let them stick around over the last 8 games, and so why not take a stab at it?
Well, that's what I was going to say, Bob, is, last week, gloom and doom, back and forth. Here we are on this Friday, and there's still only 3.5 games out. This feels very Gabe Kapler-esque back when he was, and they were like, well, there's still only 3.5 games out. But the whole weird thing about that was you never believed in those teams. They went out and got Harper with the thought of, we'll get a guy here that would make you believe because this guy's and that hasn't helped either.
Yeah, it's kind of it's weird. They're 3.5 games out, and it's funny what one game can do for you, because if they go out and get swept in that doubleheader yesterday and lose 3 out of 4 to the Washington Nationals, a team that came into Philadelphia with the worst record in baseball in the month of July at 5-15, and a team that's in the middle of a fire sale and had 4 players out on Thursday with COVID. I just don't know how you can justify really doing anything at the deadline at that point. It's like you showed what you are. But they showed a lot of resolve in coming back against an absolutely dreadful bullpen yesterday to salvage a split. And listen, it's a weak division. If Bryce Harper gets hot to the point where he can carry this team for a 10, 14-day stretch, JT Realmuto kind of shakes off what's been a sluggish 3 weeks, and they just get this lineup firing a little bit, things can get weird. Stranger things have happened. I don't believe in this team. I think that they'll stay in it. I think we've talked about this before. I expect them to have a puncher's chance going into the second half of September, but ultimately, I don't believe that there's enough here for them to finally end this playoff drought.
I would agree, and they didn't do it today. And by the way, they did not. We didn't hear anything about Hoskins, so I'm imagining no calls or no effort to move him.
No, listen, he's out of lineup tonight. I think he tweaked his groin or his oblique yesterday late. I think that if you're going to do one of those franchise-altering moves that we talked about, which is something I really believe is going to be in play this offseason, especially if this current core kind of just, stays on the same plane that they've been now for a couple of years. But it's really hard to do those types of deals in the middle of the season. So many different variables have to come together.
Bob Wankel, Crossing Broad. It was a positive vibe early, and then it went south. Covers the Phillies there tonight in Pittsburgh against the dreadful Pirates. 3.5 back of the Mets. Trade deadline moves. We'll see what happens. Bob, have a great weekend, man.
Talk to you soon, Mike.